2025, a year that's already rewriting the true crime playbook. Let's dive in. Number 1. Luigi Mangione, the UnitedHealthcare CEO Murder. December 4th, 2024, Midtown Manhattan, 6:45 a.m. Brian Thompson, the 50-year-old CEO of UnitedHealthcare, was walking alone toward the New York Hilton Midtown, where his company was hosting an investor conference. The streets were quiet. The sun hadn't fully risen. It was just another Wednesday morning in one of the busiest cities in the world. Then, a masked figure approached from behind. Surveillance cameras captured what happened next. The assailant raised a handgun equipped with a suppressor and fired multiple shots at close range. Thompson staggered forward, collapsed onto the sidewalk, and within minutes, he was dead. The killer calmly walked away, got on an electric bike, and disappeared into Central Park. Within hours, the NYPD launched one of the most intense manhunts in recent memory. Investigators reviewed hundreds of hours of surveillance footage, tracked the suspect's movements across the city, and released images of a person of interest, a young man with a distinctive backpack, seen smiling in what appeared to be a hostile security camera photo. The internet went wild. Who was this man? And why did he kill a healthcare CEO in broad daylight? 5 days later, on December 9th, police got their break. A McDonald's employee in Altoona, Pennsylvania, recognized the suspect from wanted posters and called 911. Within minutes, officers arrived and arrested 26-year-old Luigi Mangione. When they searched him, they found a ghost gun, an untraceable firearm assembled from parts, a suppressor, and multiple fake IDs. But the most chilling discovery was a handwritten manifesto. In it, Mangione railed against the American healthcare system, calling it corrupt, greedy, and responsible for the suffering of millions. He described insurance companies as parasites that profit from denying care, and he singled out UnitedHealthcare as one of the worst offenders. Investigators also found that the bullet casings recovered from the crime scene had been inscribed with 3 words: delay, deny, depose. Those words are a reference to tactics that critics say insurance companies use to avoid paying claims: delay the process, deny coverage, and force policyholders to give up. It was a message, a violent, calculated statement about healthcare in America. Luigi Mangione was no random drifter. He was an Ivy League graduate from the University of Pennsylvania, a data engineer, and the heir to a wealthy Maryland family that owned country clubs and nursing homes. He had a promising career, a privileged upbringing, and no prior criminal record. But according to friends and social media posts, Mangione had struggled with chronic back pain for years. He'd undergone surgery. He'd spent months isolated, researching insurance practices, reading about corporate greed, and growing increasingly radicalized. By the time he walked up behind Brian Thompson that December morning, he wasn't just angry. He was on a mission. Mangione was extradited to New York and charged with first-degree murder in furtherance of terrorism, a rare charge that carries a mandatory life sentence without parole. Federal prosecutors also filed additional charges, including using a firearm in a crime of violence, which could make him eligible for the death penalty. His trial is scheduled to begin in December 2025. But here's where this case gets even stranger. Luigi Mangione became a folk hero. Online, thousands of people praised him. TikTok videos defending him went viral. Women showed up to his court hearings wearing Free Luigi shirts. Merchandise with his face appeared on Etsy. GoFundMe pages raised money for his legal defense. The public response wasn't unanimous. Many condemned the murder as cold-blooded violence. But a shocking number of people said they understood his anger. They said the healthcare system was broken. They said Brian Thompson represented everything wrong with corporate America. One viral post read, "He did what millions of us have only thought about." For investigators, prosecutors, and the victim's family, the lionization of Mangione was horrifying. Brian Thompson was a father, a husband, and a man who had dedicated his career to healthcare. He didn't deserve to die on a sidewalk just because of his job title. But for millions of Americans struggling with medical debt, denied claims, and unaffordable care, Luigi Mangione became a symbol of rage, frustration, and desperation in a system that many believe has failed them. As of now, Mangione remains in federal custody. His trial will likely be one of the most closely watched in years. And whether he's convicted or not, the questions his case raises about healthcare, inequality, and violence as protest will linger long after the verdict is read. Number 2. Sean Diddy Combs, the fall of a music mogul. Sean Diddy Combs, Puff Daddy, Love, Brother Love, whatever name he went by, he was one of the most powerful figures in music history. A rapper, producer, entrepreneur, and billionaire who built an empire that included Bad Boy Records, Ciroc Vodka, and Sean John Clothing. But on September 16, 2024, federal agents raided his homes in Los Angeles and Miami. And by the end of the day, Diddy was in custody, facing charges that would shock the world. The federal indictment, unsealed shortly after his arrest, painted a disturbing picture. Diddy was charged with racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Prosecutors allege that for over a decade, he had used his wealth, power, and influence to lure women into exploitative situations, events he called freak-offs. According to the indictment, these were elaborate drug-fueled sex parties that Diddy organized and controlled. Women were allegedly coerced, sometimes threatened, and forced to participate in acts that lasted for days. Diddy would film the encounters, prosecutors said, and use the footage as leverage to keep victims silent. When federal agents searched his properties, they found over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and personal lubricant, a detail that quickly became infamous online. They also seized firearms, drugs, and electronic devices containing videos that corroborated the allegations. But the most damning evidence came from the women themselves. Multiple victims came forward, ascribing years of abuse, manipulation, and fear. One woman, Cassie Van Dura, a singer and Diddy's former girlfriend, had filed a lawsuit in late 2023 alleging rape, assault, and forced participation in these freak-offs. The lawsuit was settled within 24 hours, but it opened the floodgates. More women spoke out. More lawsuits were filed, and federal investigators took notice. Then, in May 2024, CNN obtained and published surveillance footage from a hotel in 2016. The video showed Diddy physically assaulting Cassie, dragging her, kicking her, and throwing objects at her in a hallway. The video was brutal, undeniable, and deeply disturbing. Diddy issued a public apology, calling his behavior unexcusable. But by then, it was too late. The damage was done, and the federal government was building a case. After his arrest in September 2024, Diddy's legal team requested bail multiple times. Each time, judges denied it, citing concerns that he posed a danger to witnesses and a flight risk given his wealth and resources. He remains in federal custody at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, awaiting trial. That trial is scheduled to begin in May 5, 2025. If convicted, Diddy faces a minimum of 15 years in prison and a maximum of life. Prosecutors have made it clear, this is not just about one man. This is about dismantling a criminal enterprise that operated for years under the cover of celebrity.
Number 3. Lori Vallow-Daybell, the Doomsday Cult Mom, returns to court. Lori Vallow. To some, she was a devoted mother. To others, she was a doomsday cult follower who believed her children were possessed by dark spirits, zombies, she called them, and that killing them was an act of mercy. In 2023, Lori was convicted in Idaho of murdering her 2 children, 7-year-old JJ Vallow and 16-year-old Tylee Ryan, as well as conspiring to murder her husband's ex-wife, Tammy Daybell. She was sentenced to life in prison without parole. But the story didn't end there. In March 2025, Lori Vallow-Daybell returned to court, this time in Arizona, facing charges for the murder of her 4th husband, Charles Vallow. Charles had been shot and killed in July 2019 by Lori's brother, Alex Cox, who claimed self-defense. At the time, investigators accepted the claim, but as the larger case unfolded, revealing Lori's involvement in multiple deaths tied to her bizarre religious beliefs, prosecutors took another look. They concluded that Charles's death was not self-defense, it was murder, and Lori had orchestrated it. Prosecutors alleged that Lori wanted Charles dead for financial reasons. He had a $1 million life insurance policy, and Lori believed she was the beneficiary. But Charles had recently changed the policy, naming his sister as the beneficiary instead, a move Lori allegedly didn't know about until after his death. According to the indictment, Lori conspired with her brother Alex to kill Charles. On July 11, 2019, Alex went to Charles's home in Chandler, Arizona, and shot him twice in the chest. Charles died at the scene. Alex Cox himself died just months later under mysterious circumstances. Officially, the cause was a blood clot, but many believe he was poisoned, possibly by Lori or her then-boyfriend, Chad Daybell, to keep him from talking. The Arizona trial is separate from the Idaho case, but it paints a fuller picture of Lori Vallow-Daybell's alleged crimes. She didn't just kill her children, she allegedly killed anyone who stood in the way of her delusional religious beliefs and her relationship with Chad Daybell. Chad, a self-published author of apocalyptic novels, convinced Lori that they were divine beings tasked with preparing for the end times. He told her that certain people, including her children and her husband, had been taken over by dark spirits, zombies, she called them, and that killing them was an act of mercy. In March 2025, Lori Vallow-Daybell began her Arizona trial. The trial is expected to last several weeks, and if convicted, Lori faces an additional life sentence, though she's already serving life without parole in Idaho. For the families of her victims, the trial is another painful chapter in a story that has already caused unimaginable suffering. Charles Vallow's sister has been vocal about seeking justice, saying that Charles deserves to have his story told and his killer held accountable. Lori Vallow-Daybell has become one of the most notorious figures in modern American crime. Her case has been covered in documentaries, podcasts, and news specials around the world. And as the Arizona trial unfolds, the world is once again watching, wondering how someone could commit such horrific acts in the name of faith. Does this video make you remember any case yet? Drop how you feel when the news first broke out in the comments below. Number 4. Stephen Stearns, the stepdad killer. Madeline Soto was 13 years old. She was a student, a daughter, and a girl with her whole life ahead of her. But on February 26, 2024, she disappeared. Her mother reported her missing after she failed to show up at school that day. The search was brief. Just hours later, Madeline's body was found in a wooded area in Osceola County, Florida. She had been murdered. Investigators quickly focused on one person, Stephen Stearns, Madeline's stepfather. Stearns had been dating Madeline's mother for years and was a constant presence in her life. He claimed he had dropped Madeline off near her school that morning and had no idea what happened to her after that. But detectives didn't believe him. And when they searched his phone and computer, they found evidence that would turn the case into one of Florida's most disturbing child abuse cases in recent memory. Forensic analysts discovered thousands of images and videos, evidence that Stearns had been sexually abusing Madeline for years. The material was dated, organized, and meticulously stored. Some of it depicted abuse that had occurred just days before her disappearance. Prosecutors believe that Madeline's murder was an attempt to silence her. She had begun to confide in friends and teachers about the abuse. Stearns, fearing exposure, killed her to protect himself. Stephen Stearns was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, sexual battery on a child, and possession of child sexual abuse material. His case was split into two separate trials. The first trial, held in February 2025, focused on the abuse charges. Stearns was convicted on multiple counts and faces decades in prison even before the murder trial begins. The second trial, scheduled for September 2025, will focus on Madeline's death. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. The case has devastated Madeline's family and the community. Her mother, who had trusted Stearns, has been left to grapple with the unimaginable reality that the man she loved killed her daughter. Madeline Soto's story is a tragic reminder of how predators hide in plain sight, often in roles of trust, where their victims have no escape. Stephen Stearns will spend the rest of his life behind bars, but for Madeline's family, no sentence will ever be enough. Number 5. Karen Read, the most controversial murder trial in America. It's been called the trial of the decade in Massachusetts, a case that's divided an entire community, sparked conspiracy theories, and turned a woman named Karen Read into either a cold-blooded killer or a victim of a massive police cover-up. The facts are simple. The truth, that's where it gets complicated. On January 29, 2022, John O'Keefe, a 46-year-old Boston police officer, was found dead in the snow outside a home in Canton, Massachusetts. He had been out the night before with his girlfriend, Karen Read, attending a party with other off-duty officers. Karen claimed she had dropped him off at the house and left. She said she went home, tried calling and texting him throughout the night, and when he didn't respond, she went back the next morning to look for him. That's when she found his body. Police determined that John had died from blunt force trauma and hypothermia, and within months, they charged Karen with second-degree murder, claiming she had hit him with her SUV while drunk and left him to die in the cold. But Karen and her defense team told a very different story. They argued that John had been killed inside the house, beaten to death by other police officers during a fight that got out of hand. They claimed the officers then carried his body outside, staged it to look like a hit and run, and framed Karen to cover up their crime. The defense pointed to forensic evidence, injuries on John's body that they said were inconsistent with being hit by a car, scratches and wounds that looked like they came from a dog attack, and a lack of damage to Karen's SUV that should have been there if she had struck him. The theory, a conspiracy involving multiple police officers all protecting each other. The first trial began in 2024 and quickly became a media circus. Protesters gathered outside the courthouse every day, holding "Free Karen Read" signs. Social media exploded with theories, accusations, and amateur investigations. After weeks of testimony, the jury deadlocked. A mistrial was declared in July 2024. Prosecutors immediately announced plans for a retrial. That retrial began in April 2025 and is expected to last for months. the case has become a flashpoint for debates about police accountability, corruption, and the power of law enforcement to protect its own. Karen Reed's supporters believe she's being railroaded. Prosecutors insist she's guilty and that the conspiracy theories are baseless. As of now, Karen remains free on bail, awaiting the outcome of her second trial. If convicted, she faces life in prison. But if acquitted, it would be one of the most stunning vindications in modern legal history, and it would raise serious questions about what really happened to John O'Keefe that night. The truth is out there. The question is whether a jury will ever be able to agree on what it is.
Number 6. Bryan Kohberger, the Idaho Student Murders. It's one of the most infamous unsolved cases of the past decade, except it's not unsolved anymore. On November 13, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodal, and Ethan Chapin, were brutally murdered in their off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho. They were stabbed to death while they slept, in a crime so violent and calculated that it left investigators and the public horrified. For weeks, there were no arrests, no suspects, no clear motive. The case went viral, with true crime enthusiasts, online sleuths, and amateur investigators offering theories, analyzing evidence, and speculating about who could have committed such a horrific act. Then, in late December 2022, police arrested Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old PhD student studying criminology at Washington State University, just miles from the crime scene. The evidence against him was damning. DNA found at the scene matched Kohberger's. Cell phone records placed him near the house on the night of the murders. His white Hyundai Elantra was seen on surveillance footage driving near the home multiple times in the weeks before the killings. And perhaps most chilling, Kohberger had been studying criminal behavior, forensics, and the psychology of killers. He knew how investigations worked. He knew what mistakes criminals made, and he had tried to use that knowledge to avoid getting caught. But he hadn't been perfect, and that's what led police to him. Kohberger was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. He pleaded not guilty and has maintained his innocence ever since. His trial has been delayed multiple times due to legal motions, venue changes, and the sheer complexity of the case. As of 2025, the trial is scheduled to begin later this year, though many expect further delays. If convicted, Bryan Kohberger could face the death penalty. The case has captivated the nation for over 2 years. The victims, bright young students with their whole lives ahead of them, have been memorialized by their families and communities. Vigils have been held, scholarships have been established in their names, and their loved ones continued to seek justice. For Bryan Kohberger, the weight of the evidence is heavy, but until a jury delivers a verdict, he remains presumed innocent. The trial, when it finally happens, will be one of the most closely watched in modern American history. Number 7. The Menendez Brothers, a second chance at freedom? On August 20th, 1989, Lyle and Eric Menendez walked into their family's Beverly Hills mansion and shot their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, multiple times with shotguns. The crime scene was brutal. The motive, prosecutors argued, was greed. The brothers wanted to inherit their parents' $14 million estate. The brothers were arrested, tried, and convicted of first-degree murder in 1996. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For over 30 decades, Lyle and Eric have been incarcerated, their case a footnote in true crime history. Until 2024. That's when a Netflix documentary, Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story, reignited public interest in the case. The series explored allegations that the brothers had been sexually abused by their father for years, and that the murders were not about money, they were about survival. At their original trial, the brothers testified that their father, Jose, had molested them throughout their childhood. They said they lived in constant fear and believed he would kill them if they ever tried to leave or expose the abuse. The prosecution dismissed the claims, arguing that the abuse allegations were fabricated to justify murder. The jury agreed, and the brothers were convicted. But in recent years, new evidence has emerged. A letter Eric wrote to a cousin months before the murders, describing ongoing abuse. Testimony from a former member of the boy band Menudo, who alleged that Jose Menendez, a music executive, had sexually assaulted him as a teenager. The new evidence, combined with evolving societal understanding of trauma and abuse, has led many to believe the Menendez brothers deserve a second look. In January 2025, the brothers appeared in court for a resentencing hearing. Their legal team argued that under modern sentencing guidelines, which take trauma and abuse into account, Lyle and Eric would not have received life without parole. The hearing was emotional. Family members spoke in support of the brothers, saying they had been punished enough and deserved a chance at freedom. Prosecutors pushed back, arguing that the murders were premeditated and that the brothers should remain in prison. As of now, a decision has not been made. But if the court grants resentencing, Lyle and Eric Menendez, now in their 50s, could be eligible for parole as early as 2025. The case has become a cultural flashpoint. TikTok and social media are filled with young people advocating for the brothers' release, arguing that they were victims who fought back against their abuser. Whether you believe they deserve freedom or not, one thing is clear: the Menendez case is far from over. Which case has shocked you the most so far? Drop the number in the comments. Number 8. Duane Keefe D, the man who maybe killed Tupac. September 7th, 1996, Las Vegas. Tupac Shakur, one of the greatest rappers of all time, was shot 4 times in a drive-by shooting. He died 6 days later. He was 25 years old. For nearly 30 years, Tupac's murder remained unsolved. Theories circulated, names were whispered, but no one was ever arrested. Until 2023. That's when police arrested Duane Keefe D, a former gang member who'd been linked to Tupac's murder for decades. Keefe D had admitted in interviews, documentaries, and even a memoir that he was in the car the night Tupac was shot. He said he knew who pulled the trigger, and for years he seemed untouchable, protected by a legal immunity deal he had negotiated in exchange for testimony in another case. But prosecutors found a way around the immunity, and in September 2023, Keefe D was charged with murder. The case has moved slowly through the courts. In January 2025, motion hearings were held, with Keefe D's defense team arguing that the charges should be dropped due to the immunity agreement. Prosecutors countered that the immunity only applied to specific testimony, not to subsequent public statements Keefe D made in books and interviews, which they argue amount to a confession. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Keefe D claims he was paid to kill Tupac, and he says the person who paid him was Sean D. According to Keefe D, Diddy offered him $1 million to kill Tupac and Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight. He said he took the deal, orchestrated the hit, and only received half the money because Suge survived. Diddy has denied the allegations. No charges have been filed against him in connection with Tupac's murder, but the claim has added another layer to the already complicated case. Keefe D remains in custody, awaiting trial. If convicted, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. For Tupac's family and fans, the case represents a long overdue reckoning. For nearly 30 years, they've demanded answers. Now, they might finally get them. But even if Keefe D is convicted, one question will remain.
Who actually pulled the trigger that night? And will we ever know the full truth?
Number 9. Alex Murdaugh, the appeal that could change everything. Alex Murdaugh. The name became synonymous with privilege, corruption, and murder. In 2021, Alex's wife, Maggie, and their 22-year-old son, Paul, were shot and killed at the family's sprawling South Carolina estate. For months, Alex played the grieving husband and father, appearing at vigils and speaking to the press about his loss. But investigators suspected him from the start, and as they dug deeper, they uncovered a web of financial crimes, lies, and betrayal that stretched back years. In March 2023, after a 6-week trial, Alex Murdaugh was convicted of murdering his wife and son. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. The case seemed closed. Justice, many believed, had been served. But in 2024, a bombshell revelation threw everything into question. Becky Hill, the clerk of court who presided over Murdaugh's trial, was arrested in May 2024 and charged with jury tampering, ethics violations, and misconduct. Prosecutors alleged that Hill had pressured jurors to deliver a guilty verdict, not because she believed in justice, but because she wanted to profit from it. Hill had written a book about the trial and stood to make hundreds of thousands of dollars if Murdaugh was convicted. Investigators found evidence that she had communicated with jurors during deliberations, made comments suggesting Murdaugh's guilt, and influenced the outcome of the trial. Murdaugh's defense team immediately filed an appeal, arguing that his conviction should be overturned due to Hill's misconduct. They claimed that the jury was tainted and that Murdaugh did not receive a fair trial. As of 2025, the South Carolina Supreme Court is reviewing the appeal. If they agree that the trial was compromised, Murdaugh could be granted a new trial, or, in the most extreme scenario, his conviction could be vacated entirely. For the victims' families and the public, the possibility of Murdaugh walking free is unthinkable. But the legal system is clear. If a trial is tainted, the conviction cannot stand. The appeal process is expected to conclude in late 2025, and depending on the outcome, Alex Murdaugh could either spend the rest of his life in prison or walk out a free man. The case is a reminder that justice is never as simple as a verdict, and that even the most high-profile convictions can be undone by misconduct and corruption. Number 10. Jaytan Gilder, the man who swallowed $1.3 million in diamonds. Some crimes are horrific, some are heartbreaking, and some are just bizarre. This is one of those. In early 2025, 38-year-old Jaytan Gilder walked into a Tiffany Co store in Orlando, Florida. He browsed, he smiled. He asked to see some of the most expensive pieces in the store, and then, when the staff wasn't looking, he swallowed them. Over the course of several visits, Gilder stole $1.3 million worth of diamonds. He would ask to inspect the pieces, distract the staff, and then quickly swallow the gems before anyone noticed. It was audacious, it was ridiculous, and it almost worked. But Gilder made one critical mistake. He was caught on surveillance cameras, and when police arrested him, they took him to the hospital for an X-ray. The X-ray revealed what investigators had suspected. Gilder's stomach was full of diamonds. Doctors waited for the gems to pass naturally. Over the course of several days, Gilder was monitored, and one by one, the diamonds were recovered. All of them. Gilder was charged with grand theft, possession of stolen property, and organized fraud. In early 2025, he was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison, plus a $200,000 fine. The case became a viral sensation, not because of its brutality, but because of its sheer absurdity. How did he think he would get away with it? What was his plan once the diamonds exited his body? Did he have a buyer lined up? None of those questions were answered at trial. But what is clear is that Jaytan Gilder's plan was as flawed as it was bold. He's now serving his sentence in a Florida state prison, and Tiffany Co. has implemented new security measures to ensure no one ever tries that again. Number 11. Rex Heuermann, the Gilgo Beach Serial Killer. For over a decade, the bodies of women wrapped in burlap had been found along a desolate stretch of beach on Long Island, New York. The Gilgo Beach Murders, as they became known, baffled investigators and haunted the families of the victims. Then, in July 2023, police arrested Rex Heuermann, a 59-year-old architect from Long Island. He was charged with the murders of 3 women, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, and named as the prime suspect in the death of a 4th, Maureen Brainerd Barnes. But the investigation didn't stop there. In 2024 and 2025, prosecutors filed additional charges as investigators linked Heuermann to more victims. As of now, he's been charged with the murders of at least 6 women, and authorities believe he may be responsible for as many as 11 deaths. Heuermann lived a double life. By day, he was a successful architect working in Manhattan, designing buildings and managing projects. By night, investigators say he trolled online escort sites, lured women to isolated locations, and killed them. Forensic evidence, including DNA, cell phone records, and digital footprints, tied Heuermann to the crimes. His Google search history revealed disturbing queries about bondage, torture, and body disposal. And burner phones he used to contact victims were traced back to him. Heuermann has pleaded not guilty to all charges. His trial is expected to begin in late 2025 or early 2026. For the families of the victims, many of whom waited over a decade for answers, Heuermann's arrest has brought both relief and renewed grief. They finally know who killed their loved ones, but that knowledge doesn't bring them back. The Gilgo Beach case is one of the most chilling serial killer investigations in recent memory, and as the trial approaches, the world will be watching to see if justice is finally served.
Number 12. Harvey Weinstein, the retrial of a fallen mogul. Harvey Weinstein, the name that launched the #MeToo movement, the Hollywood producer whose downfall in 2017 opened the floodgates for survivors of sexual assault to come forward and demand accountability. In 2020, Weinstein was convicted in New York of rape and sexual assault and sentenced to 23 years in prison. It was a landmark moment, a powerful, untouchable figure finally held accountable for decades of abuse. But in 2024, a New York appeals court overturned the conviction. The court ruled that the trial judge had made critical errors, including allowing testimony from women whose allegations were not part of the charges Weinstein faced. The appellate judges said this prior bad acts testimony had prejudiced the jury and violated Weinstein's right to a fair trial. Prosecutors immediately announced plans for a retrial. That retrial began in April 2025. Weinstein, now 73 years old and in declining health, appeared in court in a wheelchair. His defense team argued that he's too frail to stand trial and that the case should be dismissed on medical grounds. Prosecutors pushed back, saying that Weinstein's health issues are being exaggerated and that he must face justice for his crimes. The retrial is expected to last several months. If convicted, Weinstein could be sentenced to decades in prison, though he's already serving a 16-year sentence in California for separate rape convictions. For the women who testified against him, the retrial is both exhausting and necessary. Many have said they're willing to testify again, to ensure that Weinstein doesn't escape accountability on a technicality. The case remains a symbol of the #MeToo movement, proof that even the most powerful men can be brought down when survivors speak out. Number 13. Donna Adelson, the family murder for hire plot. In 2014, Dan Markel, a law professor at Florida State University, was shot and killed in his driveway of his Tallahassee home. It appeared to be a targeted hit, professional, calculated, and brutal. Investigators quickly suspected that Dan's ex-wife's family was involved. Dan and Wendy Adelson had been in a bitter custody battle over their 2 young sons. Wendy's family, particularly her mother Donna Adelson, had made it clear they wanted Dan out of the picture. Over the next several years, investigators built a case. They arrested the 2 hitmen who carried out the killing. Then they arrested Charlie Adelson, Wendy's brother, who prosecutors say orchestrated the murder. He was convicted in 2023 and sentenced to life in prison. But Donna Adelson, the alleged mastermind, remained free until 2024. Donna was arrested at Miami International Airport as she and her husband attempted to board a flight to Vietnam, a country with no extradition treaty with the United States. Prosecutors charged her with first-degree murder, conspiracy, and solicitation to commit murder. Her trial is scheduled for June 2025. Prosecutors allege that Donna paid over $100,000 to have Dan killed. They have wiretap recordings of her discussing the murder with her son, Charlie. They have financial records showing large cash withdrawals in the days before the killing. And they have testimony from the hitmen, who say they were hired by the Adelson family. Donna has pleaded not guilty and maintains that she had nothing to do with Dan's death, but the evidence against her is overwhelming. If convicted, she faces life in prison. The case has been described as one of the most calculated family murder plots in modern history. And as the trial approaches, the question remains, will Donna Adelson finally be held accountable for her role in Dan Markel's death? Number 14. Larry Millete, the man who killed his wife, but her body was never found. Maya Millete was a 39-year-old mother of 3 living in Chula Vista, California. On January 7, 2021, she disappeared. Her family reported her missing. Police searched for weeks, but Maya was never found. From the beginning, investigators suspected her husband, Larry Millete. The couple had been going through a difficult divorce. Maya had been planning to leave, and Larry, friends said, had become increasingly controlling and paranoid. Prosecutors allege that Larry killed Maya to prevent her from leaving and taking their children. They say he disposed of her body in a location that has never been discovered. The evidence against Larry is largely circumstantial, but it's compelling. Investigators found that in the weeks before Maya's disappearance, Larry had been searching online for ways to make someone disappear. He had contacted spellcasters offering to pay for spells that would make Maya fall back in love with him or prevent her from leaving. He also purchased a gun shortly before her disappearance, a gun that has never been recovered. Larry was arrested in October 2021 and charged with murder. His trial, delayed multiple times, is scheduled to begin in 2025. If convicted, Larry faces 25 years to life in prison. For Maya's family, the trial represents the only chance at justice they may ever get. Without a body, without a confession, the case hinges on circumstantial evidence and the testimony of witnesses who say Larry was obsessed with controlling his wife. Maya's 3 children, now being raised by her family, have been told that their mother is never coming home, and that the man responsible is their father. The trial will be one of the most closely watched no-body murder cases in recent memory. Number 15. Angelynn Mock, the Fox News anchor who killed her mother. Angelynn Mock was a familiar face to viewers in Springfield, Missouri. She was a Fox News anchor, polished, professional, and well-respected in the community. But on Halloween night 2024, Angelynn's life took a dark turn. That night, police received a 911 call from Angelynn's home. When they arrived, they found 80-year-old Beverly Mock, Angelynn's mother, dead from multiple stab wounds. Angelynn was at the scene. She was covered in blood, and according to investigators, she confessed almost immediately. Prosecutors allege that Angelynn had been caring for her elderly mother, who suffered from dementia. The stress of caregiving, combined with financial pressures and personal struggles, had pushed Angelynn to a breaking point. On Halloween, an argument escalated, and Angelynn, investigators say, grabbed a knife and stabbed her mother multiple times. She was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. If convicted, she faces life in prison. The case has shocked the Springfield community, where Angelynn was known as a trusted journalist and public figure. Friends and colleagues have described her as kind, dedicated, and hardworking, making the allegations all the more difficult to comprehend. Angelynn's trial is expected to begin in mid-2025. Her defense team has not yet indicated whether they will argue self-defense, diminished capacity, or another legal strategy. For Beverly Mock's family, the tragedy is compounded by the fact that the person accused of killing her is her own daughter, the person who was supposed to protect her. The case is a reminder that even people who appear successful and stable can be hiding struggles that lead to unthinkable acts. 15 cases, 15 stories of violence, betrayal, greed, and justice. Some of them involve people you've heard of, celebrities, public figures, and names that dominated headlines. Others involve everyday people whose lives were torn apart by crime. But they all have one thing in common: they defined 2025. This year has shown us that crime doesn't discriminate. It happens in penthouses and suburbs. It involves the rich and the poor. It's committed by strangers and by family members. And it leaves behind a trail of trauma that can never be fully healed. We saw a CEO murdered in broad daylight, sparking a national debate about healthcare and inequality. We saw a music mogul fall from grace, facing allegations that shattered his empire. We saw cold cases finally reach trial after decades of waiting. And we saw new evidence that could free men who've been imprisoned for 35 years. Some of these cases ended with justice. Others are still unfolding. A few may never be fully resolved, but each one reminds us of something important. No one is above the law. Not a billionaire, not a celebrity, not a priest, a cop, or a news anchor. And when justice is delayed, it's not denied. It's just waiting for the right moment to strike. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. These stories are difficult, they're disturbing, but they're important. They remind us to stay aware, stay informed, and never assume that the person next to you, the person you trust, is exactly who they seem to be. Before you go, we want to hear from you. Which case shocked you the most? Drop the number in the comments below. And if you found this video valuable, if it made you think, made you feel, or simply kept you engaged, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never